Grass lies flattened by light. The savannah holds a stillness that rings like a drum waiting for a strike. Two tall silhouettes drift closer, step for step, the space between them tuned to a quiet tension. Heads tilt, legs plant. Then the air bends. A neck arcs in a slow, heavy sweep, gathering speed over meters, and a skull, armored in skin and bone, slams into the other's flank with a thud that seems to ripple the ground. Dust rises, hangs, and falls. The reply comes from the opposite side, an answering swing that carves a crescent through sun and insect noise. Impacts land with rhythm and restraint, then with force and abandon. The duel is measured in angles and timing, not in roars. It is elegant until it is not, graceful until the moment of contact, when grace becomes a hammer. The fight does not chase or sprint. It pivots, it breathes. A miss whistles past ribs, a hit shudders along a spine. After long minutes, one animal lowers its head and steps away. The winner watches, breathing deep, then folds the long neck back into calm. The plain returns to birds and wind. The sound of the duel becomes untraceable. The names arrive after the dust. Bull giraffes, and the behavior has a name too. Necking. In the language of field notes, it is giraffe neck fighting. But the act is older than words. Necking behavior in giraffes ranges from light sparring to violent, bone-deep blows. Males stand alongside or at a slight angle, legs splayed for stability, and swing the head as a weighted club. Ossicones, the skin-covered horn-like structures, are thicker and often bald on top in males, their skulls reinforced by extra bone deposits that make each impact count. A contest can last minutes or hours. Most end with a glance and a step, some end with a collapse. Fatalities are rare but possible. What looks from a distance like choreography is a serious negotiation inside a giraffe hierarchy that organizes access to favored browse and to receptive females. The bodies that make this possible are systems strung between extremes. 7 cervical vertebrae, as in nearly all mammals, are stretched into long levers linked by joints and ligaments that allow surprising arcs without shear. A dense nuchal ligament suspends the head like a sail on a strong mast. The heart is powerful, the vessels equipped to handle high pressure and sudden changes when the head dips to drink and rises to scan. Legs near piston length carry a frame that clears thorn thickets and gives reach to leaves others cannot touch. From the crown of small, watchful eyes to the dark, grasping tongue, the design reads as a browser's dream. A machine for vertical grazing and distant vigilance that happens, in males, to double as a weapon. Here the twist tightens. How did an herbivore evolve such extreme weaponry in the form of its own neck? Herbivory on this scale is a calculus of energy and risk. Height opens access to foliage, but taxes the heart and joints, complicates birth, and exposes the head to wind and cold. Yet selection has stretched the front end of this mammal until it can see horizons others cannot, and strip acacia canopies others only imagine. The paradox is that the same structure used to feed and to watch is used to strike. Evolution did not forge a separate blade. It sharpened a tool already in hand. In giraffe dominance battles, the neck is at once ladder and sledgehammer. Evidence for dual purpose is everywhere. Females also wear long necks, though not with the same skull reinforcements, and their behavior rarely escalates to high-force necking. That suggests a feeding advantage shared across sexes, or a social signal that both carry. Yet among males, size, and specifically neck length and skull mass, tracks rank. Older bulls with heavier heads win more, mate more, and patrol prime territories more often. In the slow-motion edges of a giraffe combat slow-motion clip, the physics becomes plain. A long lever with a dense weight at the far end converts muscle swing into formidable momentum. But the story refuses to collapse into a single arrow. If the neck is only for fighting, why carry that length year-round when battles are episodic? If it's only for feeding high, why the heavy male skull clubs and the bald, calloused crowns? If it's only for seeing predators, why do the most intense fights happen in open view where visibility is already good? The design looks like a compromise sharpened by season and opportunity. It also looks like selection testing several jobs at once, choosing what works under a palette of pressures. The question unspools into three main hypotheses. The first is the high browsing hypothesis. In it, necks lengthened to reach the canopy during dry seasons, when lower leaves were stripped by other herbivores. Individuals able to feed above the common line survived the lean times and left more offspring. The neck is a ladder first. The duel came later. This view fits the basic ecology. Giraffes harvest leaves most at risk of being monopolized by height. It explains why females are tall. It works across landscapes where trees space themselves and rainfall tugs foliage up and down the calendar. Critics point out that giraffes often bend to feed at or below shoulder height when food is abundant, and that not all populations live under strict vertical scarcity. But when drought thins the green, height becomes a currency that pays. The second is the sexual selection hypothesis, sometimes summed up as necks for sex. Here, necks lengthened because males that fought better or displayed more impressively gained more matings. As necks grew, skulls reinforced in males, and the ability to deliver and absorb blows increased. Females may prefer taller mates directly or indirectly, rewarding winners of contests that they witness or sense. The correlation between male age, skull development, and rank supports this view. The existence of ritualized sparring among younger males, practicing swings long before they can win, also fits. A challenge comes from the fact that females are also tall. If selection were strictly sexual and male-limited, their necks might lag. The counterargument is genetic correlation. When selection pushes one sex far, the other often follows unless checked by strong costs. The result is a whole species living with a weapon that carries daily utility. A third idea is the mosaic hypothesis. Multiple pressures, feeding, vigilance, combat, thermoregulation, long-distance signaling, pulled in the same direction. Necks became longer because that solved several problems at once. Height breaks heated air layers and may aid heat exchange over a tall vessel network. A raised head improves predator detection and social monitoring over long distances. A long neck also amplifies visual signals in a flat landscape, making posture and movement legible across kilometers. None of these alone would stretch a vertebral column this far. Together they could. In this view, combat is neither an afterthought nor the prime driver. It is a prominent use of a structure that also feeds and informs. The strength of the mosaic view is its realism. Its weakness is that it risks unfalsifiability. Scientists still debate which tiles carry the most weight. There are refinements. Some researchers pass necking into display versus damage, the early sparring that establishes size without injury versus the rare, high-intensity blows that settle in decision. Others map differences across giraffe taxa, noting variation in ossicone shape, skull thickening, and fighting style, a patchwork that hints at localized histories of selection. There are even bones in museum drawers that wear the costs. Healed fractures of cervical vertebrae, remodeled ribs, thickened cranial sutures. Every specimen is a verdict in bone on what this life demands. An herbivore with a hammer for a neck pays for it every day. A head that high needs pressure to keep blood moving, and pressure needs walls that hold. Veins carry valves like ladders to keep returns smooth. Skin on the legs fits like a stocking to resist pooling. Joints shoulder long levers without fail. Calves enter the world in a drop. Mothers lower and raise the head to clean and guard, balancing hydraulics designed for browsing. The marvel is not only the height or the force of the strike, it is the everyday stability of a complex built to do both without breaking. That is why the scene in the opening feels impossible to explain at a glance. Two tall browsers, built for leaves and distance, revealing a second identity with each swing. Dominance on the savannah is a currency with many mints. Lions take theirs in teeth, elephants in mass and tusk. Giraffes take theirs in a slow machine that turns elegance into impact. The duel's stakes are simple. Prime acacias, shaded river bends, access to females. These mean calves next season and the one after. In places where resources thin, contests climb in intensity. Where plenty spreads, sparring is enough. Field biologists tracking giraffe dominance battles see hierarchies that breathe with the seasons, reshuffling as bulls age into weight and out of it. The giraffe hierarchy is not a rigid ladder, but a living braid. Some of the story has vanished into deep time. Fossils suggest ancestors with shorter necks and different ossicone arrangements, a record pocked by gaps and eroded by chance. The branching path that led here is partly untraceable. Yet the present holds enough to keep asking. Why are some populations quieter than others? Why do some bulls favor body blows to the flank, while others target knees and ribs? Why do a few fights escalate until one animal falls, when most end long before that edge? Nobody knows why the threshold for violence varies so much day to day under similar skies. The answers may live in hormones, in histories of prior wins and losses, in subtle differences in body condition that a camera misses, but a rival reads. Dusk slides in and turns the acacia's thorns to black lace. One bull, jaw working a mouthful of leaves, watches another pass along the ridge. They do not stop. There is no ceremony tonight, only the quiet business of height. Far off, a third animal stands like a signpost, scanning. Calves move near their mother's shadows. Owls begin to take up positions in the low branches where hooves never reach. The plain edits itself for night. Can elegance and brutality exist in the same body? The answer stands 12 feet at the shoulder and walks in slow strides through yellow grass. It is a browser with a pendulum for a neck, a viewer of horizons that can, when asked, write a sentence of force across another's ribs and then go back to leaves as if an argument had been concluded in a language of arcs. The title names the contrast, giraffe neck combat, the gentle giant's violent duel, and the scene resolves to that truth. What looks like contradiction is design in balance. The blows are not constant, they are contingent. The grace is not pretense, it is the default. The mystery will outlast any single clip. Scientists still debate which pressure first pulled the vertebrae long. They argue reasonably over whether the duel sharpened the blade or the leaves did. What endures is the shape and the practice. On mornings after fights, the only trace on the grass is a scuff already softening. On ribs, a bruise that fades. On bone, a thickening that stays. The rest dissolves into the day, the long reach toward a canopy, the dark tongue wrapping a thorn, the head turning once more to judge a distance only it can read. Elegance and brutality live together here, impossible to explain apart, precise in their union, rewriting what we thought we knew about the limits of a herbivore's form.